Well, I'm not sure if you've heard the news, but, well, apparently an individual who happens to be a congresswoman is terribly apologetic about, well, a statement that she made Friday. And, well, on Friday, you see, it was revealed that a couple of days prior, she was, well, terrified to get into an elevator with her own coworker because her coworker happens to be, well, Muslim. And she felt that if she got into the elevator with a coworker, that she was gonna, well, blow up the elevator. And she mentioned that she didn't have a backpack on, so she felt a little less threatened by that whole thing. Well, apparently on Friday you can feel so terrified of your coworker that you don't want to get into an elevator. And by Monday you want to meet with that same coworker who you think is a terrorist. Now, for all of us that have an IQ over room temperature, we know this is complete bullshit and more games that will, you know, yours truly has to play on us. Like I said before, these games are stale and they're old and they're not going to work this season. I know certain entities think they can try to continue playing these games, but, well, they're well past their expiration date. Now, I ask you, do you really truly believe in your heart of hearts that, well, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is apologetic about her statements? No, nobody really believes that bullshit. They don't even believe it. It's hard to sell something you don't even believe to us, the masses out here. It's just, well, it just doesn't pass the smell test, so to speak. But anyway, let's take a little different tack with this whole thing, because it's only being put on, well, two individuals, but it should be put on a larger group of people. Maybe you'll agree. You know, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert didn't just say this on, like, social media, like talking with people who you can't see. No, she said this at a rally, and there were people there that we clearly can see. Now, I know they're not making much of, like, what the audience reaction was. It certainly wasn't discussed. No, the audience clapped and cheered it on. So they actually agreed with the sentiment. You know, somebody can't say something in front of a certain group of people, and those people will not already come with a preset bias to agree with it. Now, maybe once or twice you get somebody in the audience that does a gasp. They're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this person just said that. But go and watch the clip. Nobody's gasping in the room that she just made an overtly Islamophobic and racist statement. Nobody was surprised. Nobody was, well, displeased enough to, well, comment or shout something out about how wrong that is. No. Everybody pretty much agreed with it. Now, who was in the room? I happened to, well, notice some individuals that were in the room. They were, well, some people that we've seen out this way before. They were 3%ers, Proud Boys in the room. You know, you can tell by the insignia and dress. We know who they are. Like I said, we're very familiar out here on the West Coast with those racist Nazis. And that's who our audience was. They were white supremacists and Nazis. And, well, she was telling, well, a story to them. And of course they love it. Because, well, they're just as racist and, well, as trash as she is. So my question is, what is this whole, well, we're gonna facilitate a meeting? You know, the wannabe speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, he's like, well, let's facilitate a meeting between the two of the individuals. Let's have Representative Lauren Boebert and Representative Ilhan Omar meet together. Now, how are you going to meet with somebody that you consider to be a terrorist? I thought that the American government's official stance was they don't negotiate with terrorists. I thought that was the official stance of the government. If Lauren Boebert really believes, as she asserted, that Ilhan Omar is a jihadist and a terrorist and a suicide bomber, what are you going to meet with her on Monday to talk about? Oh, you know, the weather is pretty nice in Colorado. And the weather is nice in Minneapolis too. Do you like pumpkin spice coffee, or would you prefer tea? You don't even teach little kids to do shit like this. These are grown adults. And, well, I love how the Republicans, you know, the fascist party now, I love how they're like, oh, it's an issue of civility. There's a lack thereof of civility in our society. No, it has nothing really to do with civility. You see, civility means that you can be civil with, well, an individual that's willing to be civil. I cannot be civil with an individual who doesn't think that I should be allowed to exist. No. Or feel so threatened by my mere existence that they will resort to violence at all instances and given all opportunities. And that's who those people fundamentally are. I know they don't like saying that on the news, but it's true in reality. We see it all the time. You think you can be civil with Derek Chauvin? You think you can be civil with Cal Rittenhouse? You think you can be civil with George Zimmerman? No. You think you can be civil with Marjorie Taylor Greene? No. You think you can be civil with Lauren Boebert? No. The reality is there's people in our society that aren't civil. So you can't have a civil conversation with an uncivilized creature. And we don't want to go there. We don't want to say that to the general public. Therefore, we want to keep lying and acting as though there's some modicum of civility that can be had with individuals like this. Lauren Boebert is a staunch white supremacist and Nazi, and everyone knows this. She's complete in other trash. Her own colleague, Adam Kinzinger, believes that, and I tend to agree. We all know this. There's absolutely nothing productive that would come out of meeting between Lauren Boebert and Ilhan Omar. Absolutely nothing would be productive out of that meeting. It would be awkward as fuck. Come on. You're asking me to go and meet with someone who considers me to be a terrorist and alleges that I want to blow them up. And this just happened Friday. And Monday, tomorrow, you want me to meet with that person. What productivity can come out of that meeting? Absolutely nothing. No. The reason Lauren Boebert wants to apologize and move on from what she called, quote unquote, a distraction is because, well, she's been exposed as being a bigot, as being a white supremacist, as being a racist. And of course, you always want to apologize and move on. This is straight out of the Narcissistic 101 rule book. apologize, deflect, try to cover up, and hurry up and move on before there's any accountability for your actions, before there's any responsibility that you really have to take for your actions. Lauren Boebert should be in prison. That's where she should be. This is a congressperson who gave possibly tours to insurrectionists prior to the actual event that took place, who while the insurrection and coup was occurring was live tweeting the location of the Speaker of the House inside the chambers. And now she's alleged that, well, her colleague, who's been in Congress far longer than she's been in Congress, her colleague wants to blow her up in the elevator. You know, for all of this talk about how welcoming, you know, the American society is, it's a complete and utter farce. It's been exposed as such. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody in America, like in any other country, is problematic or bad. It just means that, well, a lot of the talking points that America gives about itself have been exposed to be complete and utter lies. And other countries can call us out on that hypocrisy. You know, like I said before, you can't talk about other countries saying that, well, they run internment camps and they don't care about, well, minority populations, when that's exactly what the United States does too. The criticism can go back and forth, so to speak. There's no winner in that whole thing. It's a moot argument at that point. It's an argument that really shouldn't come up. Now, in a healthy competition, you get stupid arguments back and forth. You get stupid things said back and forth. And you have to be able to peruse and, you know, figure out what's bullshit from what's not bullshit. And everybody has their own heap of bullshit. And I try to call it out on both sides. But this is complete and utter bullshit. I mean, come on. Friday, the person is a terrorist. Monday, you're ready to meet with the person. And you've completely seen the light. The person is not a terrorist any longer. You want to sit down and have a meeting and just, well, act like it's a normal day in the office. Actually, it's not. And actually, you didn't just say that to her. You said that about 3.45 million Americans. You said just because they happen to, well, be affiliated with a cult, that, well, that naturally means that they're terrorists. So like I said, any person who identifies in the cult of being a Muslim, now, that's threatening. Apparently not just to Lauren Boebert, but everybody that was in the room. And there were a lot of white nationalist 3%ers and Proud Boys in that room. We saw who was in that room. We know who she was talking to. Look here. Everybody feels threatened this winter. And now you throw in Omicron, a new variant. A variant that's probably vaccine resistant. I'm telling you, the amount of threats that people are going to feel towards other people, purely based off of awful and bigoted assumptions, are going to go through the roof this winter. It's going to be horrible. But, well, I'm just saying, if it were me, and I called somebody a terrorist or somebody called me a terrorist, I'm not going to go and meet with you. We're nemesis now. You've ensured that. So we're not meeting. There's nothing more to talk about. See, that's the thing. Americans, white supremacy. It loves trying to sweep its white supremacy under the rug. You know, like it did with the indigenous people. Oh, let's talk. Let's make treaties. Let's sign treaties. Let's not agree to the treaties we signed. Let's continue to, do things that will encroach and erode and actually never even abide by the treaties we signed. You can't believe or trust anything that doesn't keep its word. Anything that Lauren Boebert would say would be a lie. She is lying now to cover her own ass. And she would have never apologized had the tape never been released. No. There's nothing she said that she thinks she ought to apologize for. The only reason there's an apology forthcoming, or at least a pretense of an apology, is because, it looks bad. And it doesn't just look bad to, all of America. It looks bad to the whole world. That, every other nation has members of their governance structure. And none of them say ignorant things like that. Have you ever heard a parliamentarian in the Chinese Communist Party say that they felt threatened by a Muslim getting into an elevator? They felt that they were going to blow it up. Have you ever heard a Communist Chinese Party member say this? No, that's strictly the Americans. So you can say all of this bullshit. Have you ever heard a German politician say that they felt threatened by getting into an elevator with a Muslim? The French might have said something stupid similar to that. I'll have to search it out. But it's not something common that members of any country in their parliamentarian bodies generally get up and say. No, this type of ignorance and bigoted assumptions is strictly for the Americans. A meeting. Are they going to have cupcakes at this meeting? Kevin McCarthy wants to sweep it under the rug because he knows he has a lot of bigots and racists and white nationalists over in his party. Paul Gosar, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Louis Gohmert, Lauren Boebert, and the list goes on. There's a whole long list of white nationalists in the Republican Party. Of course he wants the meeting to try to sweep it under the rug. No distractions. We've got to, try to, as best as possible, not expose that we're racist and bigoted towards the American people or towards certain American groups of people. Once we get the House, then we can start persecuting the black lawmakers, the Latino lawmakers, the Asian lawmakers. But until we get the leadership and the power, we've got to hold off on making these bigoted statements. So Lauren Boebert, you got to make it look good. Go out there and say you apologize and you want to meet with Ilhan Omar. And if you offended any Muslims or anybody else, you're deeply apologetic. You know, it was just a joke. It was just an offhanded remark. I don't really feel that way. I'm a welcoming person. You know, You just have to go and do the thing that they always do, which is lie. And well, if you can sweep it under the rug long enough, people will forget about it. They've been doing this for 500 years. This winter, the game is up. I guarantee you, the game is up.